The COVID-19 pandemic has pushed many businesses into survival mode, forcing entrepreneurs to operate below their regular capacity. On this week's edition of the Business Review, we explore how one local company is managing to stay afloat. Andrew Ledley reports.
Operating a business during the COVID-19 pandemic is a difficult task. The sentiments of CEO of convenience foods liquid egg company Damian Crawford. As borders closed and people were encouraged to stay indoors, sales took a nosedive and once lucrative markets started to disappear. In the midst of all that, expenses continued to pile up. Given the circumstances, Mr. Crawford explained that he had to make some drastic decisions.
We had our farm which produced the eggs. And unlike many other equipment, birds can't be turned off. And so they were consistently producing eggs and had a feed bill of almost $12,000 per week. We had to take the decision, therefore, to reduce our bird count by killing about $8 million Jamaican, that's about $8,000 out of birds prematurely. These birds would have lasted until December of 2020, and we had to get rid of them in April of 2020.
The government has provided support for local businesses during the pandemic. But even with that, Mr. Crawford says he couldn't avoid laying off some of his workers.
We also had to lay off most of our admin staff and eventually some of our farm staff, and has kept our factory staff on a rotating 3 days a week system, because we do also supply some bakeries in Jamaica which have been affected as well by schools being closed.
The businessman says he was caught off guard by how quickly things worsened, forcing the government to implement stricter measures. He says that also took a toll on his business.
The immediacy of the close down affected us dramatically, as our eggs for each week has to be about 7 days, produced 7 days before the week, so as to have the lab test and the results ready. At the point of the lockdown, we had in our storage over 7 million Jamaican, which would be approximately $70,000 of product in the fridge already ordered, but then refused because the hotels were not open and flights had ceased and desist.
With that major market no longer an option, the entrepreneur sought to adapt, but even that decision had challenges of its own.
We have been trying to go into the local market as well. However, that has been initiating a price war, being that market was previously satisfied by other egg producers who were not in the hotel and tourism sector. And so the influx of persons within that market has led to a dramatic price decrease, which has shown us not to be a sufficient strategy. So we have reduced our production and has been actively seeking to prepare for the increase in market share that we may have if we survive the next 5 to 6 months.
So for now, Mr. Crawford says he's operating in survival mode, but at the same time, he's confident that the business will rebound once the pandemic has passed.
We know that those who survive this COVID situation will have larger market share, being that some will not survive the COVID situation, unfortunately. And so we have taken the time and the opportunity to be improving our efficiencies as it relates to energy consumption. We have been trying to change out some of our fridge and storage situations to be more energy efficient. We have been improving our machine, looking at older pumps, trying to change them out into newer pumps, so that if we have a 100% increase in demand, we're able to meet it. And if we have a 50% increase in demand, we're able to meet it. And even if we don't get back to our original demand, our efficiencies would have reduced the cost portion, thereby causing us to be able to survive. So that's basically what we have been doing. We have been trying to go into the local market as well. However, that has been initiating a price war, being that market was previously satisfied by other egg producers who were not in the hotel and tourism sector. And so the influx of persons within that market has led to a dramatic price decrease, which has shown us not to be a sufficient strategy. So we have reduced our production and has been actively seeking to prepare for the increase in market share that we may have if we survive the next 5 to 6 months.
Andrew Laidley, TVJ News.